How's it going, my fellow parents? You know, there's something special about parents in film, parents in TV, parents on movies. When you're a kid, you're captivated by these parents. You laugh at them. You say, "Oh, they're the coolest parents." And then when you're a young parent, you look at them and you're like, "Wow, oh my gosh, I see them differently. I view this episode differently." You study them. You compare your parents to them. And then as you get older in parenting, you just have these memories and you think back. And it's really fun talking about parenting in film and TV, Jordan. People don't do it very much.
No, and I think it's interesting, too, because a lot of us can judge. It's funny. I don't know why we do this. We judge our parenting off of how the parents are in these movies and these TV shows sometimes. And it's like, we don't even know what the creators in Hollywood were thinking when they created these parents.
Right.
And it's just on paper and it's someone's idea, but yet somehow we're still relating our life to their lives.
So what a great point. What is it about it? Like, let me just ask you, like, I think I'll ask myself too, like, why are we so captivated by good parents in TV and film? What's your take on that? Why?
I think it makes us feel good that, like, you know, we're all kind of in this together. A lot of the times, you know, what Hollywood does and what these TV shows do is they try to make it as relatable as possible to all of America or many people in America, right?
Yeah,
These
yep.
different family dynamics.
Well
and we
said.
could all, you know, basically watch different shows with different family dynamics that maybe relate to our family. And I don't know, there's this connectability, there's this laughter about it, this
Yes.
funny. A lot, what do they do is they use comedy in hard situations. And in real life, maybe we don't have that comedy. So it's almost like an
Yeah.
escape for us to be like, oh, that
Well
scene
said.
where they were drinking and driving, that was kind of funny. And in real life, it was really serious and hard, but we can kind of, it's like going to comedy. We go to like just let off steam and to chill out for a second.
That's really deep. I think for me, you know, I've shared this story before. When I was a kid and a teenager, I didn't really have any dreams. I didn't really care about my job or what I was going to do. I just dreamed of having a family, of being a dad. And I would look at these healthy families on TV, which we're going to talk about today, and I was like, that's amazing. That's what I want. That's what I wish I had. And it was like some people watch, you know, action movies and they dream of having a sports car or of having superheroes. I just dreamed of that. I was like, this is, you know, that's really what I want. I want to be like these families, which we're going to talk about right now, you know, and we're going to have some fun. So here's
You know, it's
what
no
we
fair
have.
though. These shows, it's like no fair.
I
like
know.
these shows
Yeah.
make it to where
Right.
it seems so easy, and then in real
Right.
life, it's so much harder.
I know. You know, I feel that way when I watch some TV parents. And you know what I just thought as you were saying that? I wonder if sometimes people think of us that way. They listen to this podcast like, these guys make it seem so easy. Have you ever thought about that? Isn't that kind of mind-blowing?
So easy.
Isn't
right.
it? It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I had this.
It
I
is
was
mind
at
blowing.
a.
That's why I'm
I
always
was at a
trying to like let
restaurant.
people know, like, hey, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
I know it's hard.
It's so hard. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Jordan's going to share his top 5 parents from TV and film. I'm going to share my top 5. And we're going to start off, and we're going to do some banter back and forth. And we're going to start with some honorable mentions. But here's the rules that I asked Jordan to set up for us. Okay, first, this had to be your top 5 parents. They had to be from, like, really popular shows, right? Like, we're not going to try to pick some obscure show. 2, we're going to try to pick shows that kind of span the decades, right? Because, you know, I'm 45 years old. Jordan's 7 years younger than me. So we're trying to, like, really span the decades. So we've got older parents and we've got younger parents. And so are you ready? Ready for my honorable mentions, my dude? I'll get us started with a couple.
Okay, we'll start off with honorable mentions, and then we'll get to our top 5. So what is your honorable mention? Because there's a lot of shows out there that have got
Lots.
some great family dynamics and great parents.
I did a lot of
Yeah.
research for this episode, too. So we're really not going to chat much about the honorable mentions, but we're really going to go deeper on our top 5. Honorable mentions. So I didn't see the show very much, but, you know, the George Lopez show was very popular back in the day. So honorable mention to George from the George Lopez show. How about this? Did you ever get into Malcolm in the Middle? I did not. Did you ever get into that?
Oh, yeah. Malcolm in the Middle. Was that? Oh, no, I'm thinking Even Stevens, the one with Shia LaBeouf. I remember having my brother got into Malcolm in the Middle a
Very
lot,
popular.
but I never really got
Very-
into it.
so
I
there-
don't even remember what the parents were like in
So
that
there was
show.
a mom. Yeah, there's a mom. Her name is Frankie. And one mom wrote on a forum, she wrote, I'm Frankie from the middle. So no, that's another honorable mention. The show The Middle is so good. And this is an honorable mention to the mom from The Middle. I got them mixed up now. And so this is what the mom writes. I'm Frankie from The Middle. I even live in Indiana. And my life and home are far from perfect. I always try to improve my life for myself and my family, but things don't often work out in reality just the way they would. So those are some honorable mentions. I got more coming. You got any honorable mentions?
Okay, so mine's going to be a little bit of, an OG, a classic, right? It didn't make my top 5. It probably should have, but it wasn't my era, so it didn't necessarily get there.
Yep.
My honorable mention is the Brady Bunch. All right?
Old school.
The Brady Bunch, right? One of the first examples.
I watched a lot of that growing up.
Right? It's one of the first examples of like a true blended family coming together.
Yep.
And, the male's got 3 boys, the female's got 3 girls.
Yeah.
They jump into this big family, and they all have to learn to live together. And it was always kind of like a feel-good. They made a couple movies about them. I remember watching the movies as a kid, but I just remember that having good lessons and a really good family dynamic and good parenting.
You know why I think Leave It to Beaver is also on my honorable mention? The same reason why the Brady Bunch is because there weren't that many channels when I was growing up, and there weren't that many reruns. But there was a lot of reruns of the Brady Bunch and Leave It to Beaver, black and white, little character going around just doing mischief with his little best buddy. Any other honorable mentions for you? I got a couple more.
The only other one I have is actually one that I never watched. And you can kind of correct me if you think it doesn't belong here. But do you remember the show Seventh Heaven?
I never really watched it. So popular, though.
I never watched it either. What I remember is the parents in that show. There's a bunch of kids. I think the dad was a priest or a pastor. And what I remember is like a feel-good theme song and a feel-good vibe. Now, I'm throwing this out there, and anybody listening might be like, no, you're totally wrong, and I apologize. But I think I remember that being a good family dynamic show as well.
Yeah. All right. I'm dating myself again right here. Okay. There was a show called Growing Pains, and there was a dad.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
played by Alan
show.
Thicke, Dr. Jason Seaver. How about this one? Arrested Development is definitely one of the top sitcoms of all time. Probably top 10 or 20. And the dad, the main character, played by Jason Bateman, Michael Bluth. So funny. Everyone else in the family is kooky, but there's like one normal guy. It's the same concept of The Office. Everyone in The Office is kooks and weirdos except for 2 people. That's Jim and Pam. Same for this. Everybody, and he's got this goofy son, George Michael, and he's really good. I got one more honorable mention. Do you got any more?
Okay. No, I'm done. What
you know
else
what's cool is everybody watched movies during COVID, and everybody watched the movie The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's a cartoon. Remember that one?
Oh, no.
When
I don't even know if
AI
I've heard
robots
that. I need
took
to look
over
it up.
Oh my gosh, it's an incredible 2001 movie. And the dad in that, he's got kind of a really aggressive style. It's a cartoon, and he's not supporting his daughter's film career.
I've never seen
And they have a really broken relationship, and then through all the chaos and all the drama, the family bonds, he gets very humble. He changes, and he's just honorable mention to him. I asked my wife to help me with this.
This is
list.
a Netflix show. I need to put this on the list.
Really
on the
good
family
movie.
list. This is a good one. I've never seen it.
I asked my wife to help me with the list. She really wasn't much help. Did you get much help from your wife?
No, but you know what? She did help me expand on one of my top 5.
Oh, okay.
And how to look at it a little differently than I thought I was looking at it. So
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm not
that's
surprised
a good point.
by-
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I was not surprised that Danielle wasn't much help because she doesn't really watch much TV. But I noticed, some of our teenage daughters, when they get older, we let them watch the Gilmore Girls. I said, what about the mom from the Gilmore Girls? Would you put her as a good parent?
Oh, yeah.
And because on
Right.
some research that I
What'd they
did,
say?
they did put her as a great TV parent. But my wife's response was no, wouldn't make the list of a good parent. She feels like the mom in the Gilmore Girls is really much more like a friend to her daughter, and not so much.
Yeah,
of
that's
a
what it
parent.
seemed like. More of a
There wasn't
friendship.
much boundaries.
Okay. All right.
It was just like, you're growing up fast, and I'm parenting a girl growing up fast, and it is what it is. And this teenage girl is doing a lot of stuff, and they're just kind of making it look normal and normalizing. I'm sure it's a beautiful show, great parenting, I'm sure, in a lot of scenes.
Sure.
But nope, didn't make a top 5. All right, why don't you get us started,
Okay.
man?
All right.
Get
well,
us started.
that's okay.
I can't wait.
All right, so we're gonna.
You
let's
guys
get
are gonna
started.
love my top 5. I think you're gonna love it. I am excited to hear Jordan's top 5. I wouldn't be shocked we have 1 or 2 similars. Jordan, what's your top 5 TV film parents? See how it started.
Okay, so we're going to start with 5 and go down to 1. What I did when I separated my families and parenting and what I thought was good parenting in film and in television shows, I kind of picked different genres or different age groups. And so you're going to notice that in my choices here. This one is going to be more of coming from an older parent looking back at his lineage, okay? And I'm going to start off with number 5, the show everybody seems to love. It's called Modern Family.
Modern Family.
I think that show is hilarious.
That's my number 5
Modern
too.
Family, dude. There's a lot.
Such
That's
a
your
great
number
show.
5 too. Okay.
It's my number 5 too, man.
Maybe you're looking. Are you looking at it from like a Phil Dunphy perspective?
Definitely. Are you not looking at Claire and Phil Dunphy? Who are you looking at?
I think they're great, but I'm looking at it from Jay Pritchard's.
Oh, Jay
view.
Pritchard.
Okay.
What an interesting take. Tell us about
the
Jay
grandfather's
Pritchard.
point of view.
The character also
So
known
my
as Al
thought was,
Bundy.
like,
Tell
he's-
us.
That's right. All right.
Yeah.
So Jay is much older, right? This dude was, just looking at his character's history, born in Youngstown, Ohio, okay, middle America, born in the 40s. He's in his 70s during the show. He's got a smoking young wife that everybody loves. But that's not why I picked it, okay?
Okay.
I picked it because this guy grew up in a time frame where, you have a type of lifestyle. And what the whole show is about is the modern family is different. It's unique. It doesn't go back to like old style living. And so he is able to show his challenges with accepting that. But he does show that he's accepted and he still loves his family
Holy
and he cares for
smokes.
his family. And what I like about it is he's created this life of weird uniqueness with all his different kids. He's adopted a child. He's having another
gosh.
newly born, and he's had this business. He's a CEO of Closets and More, which his daughter helps run. And I look
Wow.
at it from an older perspective of like, look at this life he's created, right? I think it's pretty
gosh.
cool.
I think that could be the best section of the whole show right there, because I was a little shocked when you said Jay. I was like, what, Jay? But let me just say the same thing you said in a different way. Okay, so Jay is this alpha male guy who likes football, beer, cigars, and let's just assume that
Right.
he would like to have a son and a daughter who is kind of similar to him, and so he's got his actual bio son,
Right.
with his wife. What's his wife's name in the show? The one played by Sofia Vergara.
Gloria.
He's him and the
Gloria.
Yeah, the boy that him and Gloria have is pretty sweet. He's artistic. He's not really like Jay a lot, and he just loves this boy. He accepts him. He's got a a gay son who he shared in the season 1 and 2. It was hard for him to adjust in the beginning. He's got a son-in-law who's very kind of more effeminate and silly, a jokester, a juggler.
Dorky.
Exactly what
right.
you said. And he
Right.
accepts and he loves these people for who they are, and they accept him for he is, and that's a big
Right.
part of parenting. I went to get a coffee shop today, and I saw these 10 guys sitting around the coffee table outside, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, who are these men?
Yeah.
Are they like?" They're definitely not businessmen. I mean, they look jacked. They got mustaches, handlebar mustaches. They got tattoos. This was not a business meeting.
Nice.
I was like, is
Right,
it a
burly
Bible
man.
study?
Right.
It could be a Bible study, because sometimes you see that. I was like, no books out.
Sure.
And as I was walking by, I heard them say the word SWAT.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And I think of Jay Pritchard, I think of SWAT. And so if you are a man out there, you're on the SWAT team. It's like, this is what good parenting is about. It's about being Jay Pritchard. It's about realizing, your kids are not, it's not for you. It's not about you. Your kids are not your ego. Right. They're not you. You've got to parent the child you have, not the child you want, and love that child, even though, that child may not be just like you. Or let's say the opposite.
What's interesting, What's interesting, I think, is like when you grow up in a time frame where things are a certain way, and then as we get older, we think of life being that way. But life, the only constant thing in life is change, and things are constantly changing. So like as now we have kids, they're looking at life differently than we do, but we're still looking at our life like it was when we were kids. And so things are changing, and we have to be adaptable. And I think he shows the adaptability.
Yes. Well said. And I was going to go Phil Dunphy and Claire Dunphy, but primarily Phil, because one of Mr. Rogers' most famous quotes was something he said when he was on the Oprah show. And Oprah just asked him a question like, what's the key to good parenting, or what's a lesson or message you have for parents? And I should have this memorized because it's such a brilliant quote. He said something like, I think it's important for us parents to not forget our childhood or what it feels like to be a kid and the playfulness of childhood. That sounds like something Mr. Rogers would say, right? And this is what Phil Dunphy really embodies.
Yeah.
Like, he has fun with his kids. He is silly with them.
That's
and his
good.
kids are imperfect. I mean, I think you might have a teenage pregnancy or an early marriage. You've got 3 very different kids, and he just plays, and he has fun, and he has such a lightheartedness. And, I mean, that's just a lesson, all of us. Like, we've got to remember to have fun. Have fun with our kids.
I agree.
And life can be so stressful, and it can be hard having fun. But let's be like Phil Dunphy. Here's a line. Using his parenting, that's a quote, I think, from the show. Using his skills parenting, Phil humorously attempts to strike a balance between being a friend to his children and being an effective parent. He's crazy goofy, and more often than not, he ends up embarrassing his kids. However, those kids are grown now, and now they can still depend on him. Proving your kids are never too old to parent and embarrass. All right. What's your
great.
next number 4, buddy? Number 4.
All right. And, I'm actually going to be talking a little bit more about playing a lot. And you know what? We might as well just go with this one with my number 4 now, because I don't really necessarily have any crazy numbers here. But since you kind of went with that and how Phil does such a good job playing with his kids, I'm going to go there. So this stage of life is more for folks with younger kids. And as Sean said, it's important for, parents with older kids to do this as well. But I'm doing a show. It's 2 in 1. Okay. You mentioned Mr. Rogers. This show is kind of like a remake of Mr. Rogers in kid form. It's called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. All right?
Majorly popular show. I've never seen it once.
I've
never seen it once.
Right? Yep. He comes home. He changes his clothes just like Mr. Rogers would. He has trolley. He lives in this little town. Yeah. And so it's kind of like a remake, in a way, a cartoon of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood through Daniel Tiger. But my show is Daniel Tiger / Bluey, which I think is a Disney show. These are for younger kids. But what I want to embody in this pick are the parents of those shows. They really care about their children. Daniel Tiger's all about teaching their kids how to not get frustrated, what to do when you have to go to the potty. They have these songs, and they really, teach their children. For Bluey, it's what you just said about Phil Dunphy. All I see these parents do is play with their kids all the time. They're playing make-believe and having fun.
So
and
good.
It just looks like they're always taking time to play.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important with what you said. And that's one of the reasons why I picked the parents of these shows, because they just focus on their kids all the time.
Right.
And I think it's great.
Wow. Gosh, that's such a great take. Can I tell you something personal that just came up for me that I've never shared with anyone except for my wife?
Please.
Okay.
I have no idea which direction this is going to go. Please do.
When I started kind of going viral on social media and started having people approach me in the street, it was very confusing and kind of scary.
Yeah.
And then it got more confusing when people started saying all these negative comments to me on my comments in my videos. Like, you're such a loser.
Sure.
You're the reason why kids are screwed up. You're such a soft parent. And then it got more confusing when people were like, can you speak out on this cause? Or, Sean, tell us your stance on this. Or, Sean, you're a Trumper. You're a Biden lover. And it's like, and I just started thinking, okay, how am I going to use my platform? What's my brand, right? And it was kind of confusing. And then I watched the movie on Mr. Rogers. They made 2 movies about him recently. One a documentary, and then one with Tom Hanks. I saw the documentary first.
That's right.
And I bought after that, I bought his book. One of his books. And Jordan, I feel like the role that I'm supposed to play in this world right now is I'm supposed to be kind of like a Mr. Rogers. And who is Mr. Rogers? I've been trying to study him. And he's just such a loving person. He never says anything negative about anybody. And he probably has strong opinions about life and politics, but he doesn't ruin his brand by going publicly or saying divisive things. He's a unifier. He's a peacemaker. And that's kind of
Right.
like who I want to be. Like I want to be a Mr. Roberts who also likes NFL football, MMA, fighting, and who
Sure.
likes barbecue
Yeah.
and hot dogs from Costco. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, I think that's really wise of you to look at him as a role model or someone like him, because when I think about people that I like to study and listen to, I have so much more respect for those people who don't tell me certain viewpoints. Now, some people might be like, no, I prefer them to share more of a viewpoint because I want to be on their side or whatever it is. But when you're talking about the fundamentals of life, okay, which you are talking about one of the pure fundamentals of life as parenting, all that matters is spreading love and joy, good wisdom, and that's exactly what you're doing. So what I think is cool, the fact that you're getting both love and hate from both sides of the aisle, that's actually where you want to be, dude, because no one knows where you sit, which is great.
Right.
You just want to be the best parental figure out there for everybody to look up to.
I think I've learned a lot from you too, just watching your career in over the years, and just how you carry yourself. And you're really just an amazing man and such a gifted leader. And you are like this big ball of leadership and light. And I want to be like that.
That's very nice of you. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
That's
all right.
truth,
Before we get
man.
too
That's what
mushy-gushy here.
No, that's what everybody says about you behind your back. And I just like to say this stuff to your face. You know what I mean? I went into a Safeway.
Appreciate that.
Like we need to all build each other up, the people in our lives. I went into my favorite gas station.
I agree.
And there's the guy in there. His name is Nick. And this guy, Nick, he's probably 31 years old. Every time I go in there, he's chit-chatting with me, and he's making me laugh. And we're talking like in 1 minute exchanges, right? He's so funny and goofy. And I was in there, and you go in there, he's just making everybody laugh. He's like really good at these silly comments. And I'm moving houses, so which means I won't be going to this gas station as much. And so I said, hey, Nick, hey, man, I just want to let you know I'm moving. He's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, so I won't be coming here as much. He's like, oh, that's a bummer. And I said, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I just felt like a hero as I was about to check out, right? Check out. What did I buy? I think I bought a bottle of water. And I said, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I really enjoy talking with you. I think you have a really good gift. Like, every time I come in here, I laugh, I smile. You make my day every better. And I see what you're doing. Like, you do this to everybody. Like, you were just making a teenager laugh, like right before me, which is true. He was talking with a teenager and making him laugh. And, like, you have a real gift, man. And I just want to let you know, like, it really means a lot to me. And you bring a lot of happiness to this world. And he kind of got emotional.
Dude, yeah, I was just thinking, I can't believe you said that. We don't compliment each other enough. Like, that's one thing we need to do is what you just did right there. Like, I would have just acknowledged it in my mind, smiled, and been like, man, I really like that guy, and walked out and never told him. But we need to tell these people these things. That's so cool you did that.
Well, I realized that every time I go back to my car after my, talking with Nick, I tell my family or whoever's in the car, gosh, I love that guy. That guy is so funny. And I even told him, look, you know what I realized?
Yeah.
Every time I go back to my car, I say all these nice things about you and how much I enjoy talking with you. But I've never told you. And I think I have, just not like, this is like pretty dramatic, like pretty flowery. And then he said, you know what? Thank you. Because this is what I try to do. I try to make the world a better place. I try to make everyone's day a little bit happier. I mean, I don't know what you think about your purpose in life. Some people's purpose is to be an astronaut and go to the moon or to solve world hunger. But, I mean, this is a guy working in a gas station is just bringing light and love and positivity to the world. Like, talk about exactly a mission. Right. Talk about, like, good job, Nick, from the Safeway gas station in El Dorado Hills, California.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said something to him, dude. That is so cool. I love that. What a great life lesson.
My heart is just bursting right now.
All right. What's your number 4? What's your number 4?
All right. Number 4. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Please tell me you've seen the show This Is Us. This is Us.
Yes. No, I never got into it, but I know it was very popular.
Super popular. So let's talk about the parents, played by Jack Pearson and Rebecca Pearson, played by Mandy Moore and Milo Ventimiglia. Very handsome couple we're talking about. Very handsome couple. So here we are. We got Jack, recovering alcoholic, got serious problems, and just
Okay.
an alpha male. I think he's in construction, pursuing his dream of owning his own construction. And then we got this highly emotionally intelligent mom, Rebecca Pearson. I remember watching this woman in like season 1 with her, I think, adopted child, and the child, brilliantly played by these actors, forget their names, is having an anxiety breakdown. The mom puts her hands on
Randall
the child's
Pearson. Is
cheek.
that his
Randall Pearson is the character. On a
Okay.
young Randall Pearson's cheeks. I'm doing it to my cheek right now. I can just feel a calmness even going over my own body. It's my own hand. And she's okay, breathe. Breathe. And
I love this picture
child,
of you.
This child lets her self-regulate. And just the emotional
Yeah, oh.
intelligence of having 3 imperfect kids. Randall, who struggles with, perfectionism, and their daughter, what's the daughter's name? Who struggles with some weight issues and self-esteem issues. And then they have their other twin who struggles with just like
Lyric Ross.
selfishness.
Is that her?
Selfishness and kind of pride.
Deja?
And vanity. Just great. Here's a
Or
couple
Hannah?
quotes.
I don't
Here
know.
it
I
is.
never
Jack
got into
is-
that show.
Jack is devastated. One of his triplets is stillborn, but turns lemons into lemonades by
Oh.
agreeing to raise an abandoned child who's African American, along with 2 surviving children. Jack struggles with balancing satisfaction with struggles with his job, with being able to provide for his family, leading to struggle with alcoholism. However, Jack is determined to be a better father than his own was, who was a big drunk and abusive. And this is why we love TV parents, because of this. Because we look at these parents, we say, that was me, or that was my dad, or I want to be like that. When I look at this guy on film, I say to myself, that's who I want to be. His love and his devotion to his family is so profound that his loss, because he does pass away, continues to be felt decades later. Man.
Dude, and notice the depth of those parents, right? And a lot of the the shows we're talking about here, there's a lot of depth to it, right? There's a lot of different backgrounds. Whether it's a show that brings you laughter and smiles, I think This Is Us is more drama filled. I remember seeing a lot of tears on that show. It was more serious. But the depth of the characters and the depth of that family really allow us to connect and feel, right? That's the most important thing. Like, we're feeling what it's like to be in that family or to be that parent.
You feel it. You feel like you're in this family. Yes.
Right.
It's a feeling. It's not logic. It's an emotional experience. Let me ask you a really juicy question. All right. Preparing for this episode, I paused when I got to this character because part of me didn't want to put him in the top 5, and part of me was like, yeah, I think this family needs to make it the top 5. And let me tell you why. Because for some weird reason, I do not like this character, Jack Pearson. And I think it's because I'm jealous of him.
Really?
Have you ever looked at someone on social media
Yes.
and you're kind of jealous, or like, when you watch them are going to convict you, or you're going to kind of feel guilty. You're going to feel like you're a crappy parent. And you're like, I don't even want to here we go again. I don't want to watch this crap. It's like sometimes when I watch that show, part of me internally and externally, I go like this. Oh, gosh, Danielle, this is so fake. Right?
Right.
Do you ever feel that way about any of these TV
Oh, yeah, we've all
parents?
felt that
It's
way.
like,
Whether you admit it or not, yes.
Right?
I mean,
It's like you
social
kinda
media is
wanna
all
look
about
away.
making people feel that way.
You just want to look away because it kind of makes you feel bad about yourself, but you're doing it to yourself. So instead of like keeping them off the list, I was like, you know what? I just need to admit I value these 2, even though I am a little bit jealous for some weird reason. Like, maybe I can talk to a therapist about it.
No, you're fine, dude. You're fine.
Thanks, Dad.
You know what? Actually, it's kind of cool that you admitted that and can come to realization with that. Because most people would just choose to not like that person and not even really dive in to figure out why. I think you kind of figured out why. Whether you know why you're jealous or not, but at least you're like, man, I think I don't like him because I'm jealous.
Are you
Instead
jealous?
of I just don't like him because I don't like him. Well, why not?
Do you struggle with jealousy? Are you jealous of anyone in your life? You don't need to tell us who it is. You a little jealous of anyone?
I think we all have that. Yeah. I've gotten to a point in my life, though, where I don't have to be anymore. I think a lot of us, through different stages, we have that. And when you look this happens a lot when people get into the 30s and 40s, and that's why we have these midlife crises, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
kind of
so
a
true.
common topic. It's
Yeah,
because you look at someone else your age, and
Yep.
they've made it farther than you've made it, and you're immediately
Supposedly.
jealous.
Yep.
Supposedly, right?
Supposedly,
And so you can freak out for whatever reason, But yeah,
Yeah.
we've all gone there. I've gotten to a point though where like, thankfully I have an amazing work life, but I'm realizing that my life doesn't revolve around my work. I love what I do, but that's
Yes.
not my purpose. I've got an amazing
Yes.
family life, and it can be very hard, but it's very, joyous. Like I really
Yes.
love being a dad and being a husband, and I look at other families and I love what they have too. And sometimes they're out traveling or doing this or buying this, and you get this like weird sense of like, well, why don't I have that? And then I realize,
Yeah.
well, I don't need that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
can't
well
think of anyone
said.
specifically, but yeah, I felt that.
You know what? You know what a cough is? A cough is a symptom of a cold or some other disease like bronchitis. And you could say that jealousy is a symptom of something deeper. It's a symptom of an identity struggle where you're putting your value, your faith, your definition of success into something that's just not good for you. And now you're reaping what you've sown, just like a cough, right? If you don't take care
Right.
of yourself, you're going to have a symptom called a cough. That's what jealousy is for all of us. It's like a little signal, like where I'm thinking, what I'm setting my mind on, how I'm thinking about this topic. This is not good for me. Nothing good is going to come out of this.
No.
And there's a difference between like being motivated by someone else's success, and like I want to be like them, I look up to them,
Correct.
versus jealousy.
That's
Fine
the big
line.
thing is, yes,
Yep.
is a fine line, but you're in charge of how that impacts you. It's just like everybody has not everybody, but a lot of, let's say, America or the media has this evil thought process on the rich and the wealthy, right?
Yeah.
When some people are like, no, they've got there because they worked their butts off. They were given nothing, and now look at them. And
right.
it's how you want to look at it, right?
Yeah,
and
man.
if you want to look at it as like, man, this person got to be something from nothing, I want to do that too, that's just going to fuel you. But if you look at it as like, oh, I hate them, I can't believe they have all that, that's pure jealousy, and that's evil, and that's not good for you. It's like a
Well
cancer
said.
in the body.
It
It's
is.
like a cough, as Sean
Really
said.
well said.
All right.
So, all right. Number three.
Number
What's your number three?
This is a show that hopefully everybody has seen. I'm pretty certain that if you were to survey people, the majority of America has seen an episode or knows who characters are from the show. I chose the parents of the show, Family Matters.
Family.
Do you guys remember Steve Urkel?
Oh my
Did I
gosh.
do that? Oh my
Great
gosh, the show that Steve Urkel made
my
so famous.
Such a
All right,
great show.
Stefan Urkel in the later
Oh,
seasons when he
yeah.
turned into the hot smoking neighbor.
They're like-
Remember that little machine he went into?
Oh my gosh! Yes, he was like Steve Urkel. Everyone
Is
loves him so
such a
much.
good
He's so
guy.
good. Let's duplicate him. Let's clone him. Oh my gosh! Brilliant
Yes.
parenting.
All right.
Brilliant parenting.
But if we look at the parents for a second, okay, you got Carl and Harriet Winslow. Okay, they were the classic TV father and mother, right? They kept their house in order. They kept their kids in line. They, had this crazy neighbor.
Crazy neighbor.
Which, for some reason, their door was always open, and he'd always blast the door open, and then he would
Yep.
drive them nuts. All they had to do was lock the dang door,
I know.
and Stephen Urkel wouldn't have come in. But
know.
he made the show, really. But what I love about it is you have this police officer. I
Yes.
believe Harriet was a stay-at-home mom, but they were just your average, everyday, American. I got a job. I'm a first responder. And ultimately, it was about their kids and making
yeah.
sure they've got good kids with good
Yes.
morals. And I think and having this unique character and this family having to accept that unique character gave us all at home watching,
Yes.
this warm sense of like, it's okay to be accepting to those that are different.
Gosh, such a great point. Well, I tell you my number three. Can you Google real quick? What was the platform of TGIF back in the mid '90s? Because
I think it was
TGIF
Nickelodeon.
I think this show was
Was
on
it not?
TGIF, but I just remember they had like 3 or 4 shows. They had like a 2-3 hours platform that everyone was watching. It was like they
remember
were raining
TGIF.
TV, and then I remember 10 years
I
later.
see an
Thursday night,
ABC
Friends.
icon. It was an ABC Friday
ABC.
nights. Yeah,
Friday night,
ABC Friday nights was
Thank God it's
TGIF.
Friday. Who else was on
Yep, that's
that
right.
show? Here, I'll do my number 3 as you look that up, because you can't have a top 5 parenting without talking about a show that, I mean, it's going to go down as, one of the most talked about, well-known shows of all time. So Full House, I mean, we're talking a pretty serious life event happened in the prequel, where this man, Danny Tanner, played by Bob Saget, is left alone to raise 3 young daughters, and he's got his hands full. His brother-in-law and his best friend move in to help, but sometimes they can be big kids themselves. You think Danny would be driven crazy in the chaotic house, especially with his obsession for cleanliness, but he keeps his sense of humor. It isn't easy being both father and mother to his 3 young girls now and to young women, but he's always there to guide them and offer advice. I mean, this show was, talk about showing love, and they had little, what's funny, but every show, they had little bits of like wisdom, parenting show, downs, comfort, and it was like 3. I didn't really care for the reboot at all. It was just too cheesy for me, but I mean, an amazing show. Did you grow up on Full House?
Oh, yeah. We used to watch Full House all the time. What I loved about Full House is you had people who weren't the traditional parents, but they were parental figures, right? You had the uncle, you had the aunt, and they were all a parental figure. And then, of course, what was Michelle's famous line?
Oh, yeah.
You got it, dude.
You're good. You're killing these lines.
You got it, dude.
Yeah, so
she was
cute.
great. And obviously the twin thing.
Here's what no one talks about,
DJ
though.
Tanner.
Here's what nobody talks about. Their broken hearts. Did you get your heart broken?
Yeah.
When you found out that Bob Saget is actually, rest in peace, Bob Saget, actually kind of a dirty kind of like a dirty comedian. Like he was super grotesque.
It did
like
break
X-rated.
my heart.
I was like really bummed out.
Yes.
Because it was like, wow.
I know.
It's sad to hear like one of the most wholesome shows of all time is played by someone whose actually personal life is full of a lot of, I don't know, it was just like cultural shock from, it's like a little disappointing.
There's another character that is the same way, and I was gonna maybe throw in Home Improvement on here and talk about Tim Allen, but then I kind of went back in my mind about that show, and I'm like, it was really funny, and I liked watching it, but in terms of a parental thing, it wasn't the best. But he's very similar. I believe there's a lot of weight when it comes to Tim Allen and on the set of Santa Claus and cursing and just things like that.
Let me give some more honorable mentions real quick.
But I want to go back.
Can I jump in? real quick?
I'm gonna go
on that point.
Yeah. Jump in. Go for it.
Okay. Quick sidebar. Honorable mention to the wife in Home Improvement. Honorable mention to the wife in Everybody Loves Raymond. Honorable mention to Homer Simpson's wife, Marge Simpson, because there's a pretty typical platform in for sitcoms. You show a kind of a dumb, goofy dad figure, like a Phil Dunphy, who's kind of idiotic, he's silly, he's lazy, and then you have this amazing woman, mother, who mothers the kids while he's just being a bozo. And so it's like this kind of like, what's a routine, or what's the word I'm looking for, dynamic in a sitcom that they look for. And this is why the men relate to the men, because they think that's funny. The women relate to the money, but it's actually can be kind of the women relate to the women, but it actually can be kind of not something to celebrate, because you have, these men are not good husbands. Actually, they're not really good fathers,
right?
And it's just kind of overlooked in these sitcoms, because it's actually the mother doing everything. And in the real world, the mother was maybe get resentful of this goofy dad who's always making jokes and not really stepping up. That's a sidebar.
Good point. Shout out to all the ladies out there and all the moms out there who are keeping the men straight in their world, because that's so true. And that is the kind of a common theme. I want to go back to the TGIF comment for a second.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to throw out some of these top 10 shows that just bring me back to my childhood. Clueless aired from 96 to 99. Everyone remembers Clueless. Sister, 94 to 99 on TGIF. Hanging with Mr. Cooper in the 90s. This is all 90s, obviously. Step by Step, which you mentioned. You've got Family Manners, which I mentioned. You've got Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which actually extended into the early 2000s with her aunts. That was kind of fun. Full House ran into the 90s. But that thing actually started in the late 80s. You had Perfect Strangers, which I never got into.
Oh, I love that
and
show.
Dinosaurs. Remember the Dinosaurs show with Bam Bam? Was it Bam Bam? Bam Bam, Bam
Didn't
Bam,
get
Bam.
into it. No.
All right, that was part of TGIF. And then the last but not least was one of the greats. I'm surprised it hasn't made our list yet. Probably because it wasn't the best show for parents, but you could argue that the teacher was the ultimate parent in the whole show. Boy Meets World.
Popular show. They, such a popular show. They remade it, right? Yep. Good,
I don't know.
Good,
Did they?
Good
They
honorable
remade Boy
mentions.
Meets World? They're remaking everything now.
They are. All
That
right.
was such a good one.
All right. So
Teacher,
let's move on.
everyone could
Okay.
get involved with.
I'm down to my top 2. Do you have your top 2?
Okay.
Are you
Yeah,
ready?
down to my
Are you-
top 2.
Okay. So
I'm
why don't
ready.
you go
You want me to go or you want to go?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So this is going to be weird, and this is going to be kind
It's
of
not
not
gonna be
thought
weird.
about.
Okay.
All right, I want you guys to think about this, okay? Because it is weird. I picked it because it is weird.
Okay. I doubt
The
it.
Addams Family.
Oh, that is
Okay.
weird. Okay.
Now there has
that's
been.
weird.
Okay.
But
weird.
I like where you're
different
going with this.
decades. All right. There's different decades of Addams Family. There's the old school black and white Addams Family TV sitcom back in the day. Got really
Yeah.
popular. They
It's not
made some
weird now.
movies about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Now you've got these animated movies, which is kind of the direction I'm going, is because
Yep.
that's pretty much all I've seen with my kids.
Yep.
And the parents in Addams Family, Gomez and Morticia,
Yes.
they are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they are dark and they
Yep.
are vampires or whatever,
Yes.
which is weird. Their whole family is weird, these monsters.
Yes.
But they embrace the weird. And I
Yeah.
think that's my theme is like
Okay.
they've got this daughter who's unique, who doesn't smile, and Wednesday's got her own thing going on. But
Brilliant.
they are still the loving parents that they are. And I
Yeah.
just think that is so cool.
And they're not boring. They are living their own life, and they're encouraging their kids to live their own life. Dude, what an amazing take.
Right.
Again,
Even
just
if it's a
like
bit
the-
deranged.
No, wow, just a brilliant take. I mean, just like your Modern Family take. I love that take. Yep, and I think the show Wednesday, is becoming now. It's like one of the top 5 all-time shows from Netflix.
Yeah, it's
Wildly
gotten pretty
popular.
big. I
Never
haven't
seen
even
it.
seen that one
Don't know
yet,
how the
but-
parents are portrayed in that, but all right, I'm down for my number. So my number 2 was a man you've already
number 2.
mentioned. So I'm just gonna go my number 2. It's what you already mentioned. I'm a huge fan of Carl Winslow from Family Matters. I know we already talked about it, so we're just gonna zip through it. But yeah, I mean, this show is just like so good, and just this open door policy he had with this neighborhood strange kid. I mean, just a brilliant parenting from both Winslow parents in that show, and I'm just really excited to share my top 1. All right, go for it. What's your top 1? Number 1. I don't know if you did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's
My
your number
number
1
one-
parent, favorite parent,
Yeah,
or one of the
again,
best parents of all time on film?
One of the best, yeah. And I've talked about him in this show before. And this is a movie. It's got Emma Stone in it, and it was one of her, movies that made her famous. It's called Easy A, and I've talked about this before. Lisa Kudrow, the
hold
actress
on.
who played Phoebe, she's
Wow,
in
you're
this.
going number 1 parents off a show I've never seen, a movie called Easy A, which I thought was kind of a sexual comedy. Is it not a sexual comedy? Or it's a PG?
It's about the book. Yes, it's about. I'm not
This is
looking at
a
it
unique-
from that
you're really-
perspective. It's about high school. Okay.
Okay.
It's about high school.
Okay,
and
tell
it's
us.
about
This
this
is
book.
interesting. I want to watch this movie now that you've
Okay,
told this.
but I'm
Please,
not. It's a great movie. I love this movie. My wife loves this movie. We both look at each other and we're like, man, we want to be like those parents. But we're
Wow.
looking at it from the parents' perspective. The
Okay.
movie's great. And it's not necessarily just about sexuality, but there's the behind the line about it because of the book they're reading in high school, and she has to do this, and the kids are, asking her to do this for them to make them cool. But what I love is you have come up with different stages of parenting that we need to adopt with different stages of life, right? I don't know if you have that up right now, but what's
yeah,
the
we've
term
talked
you
about-
use
we
when
did
you're in elementary school?
Yeah, we've talked about like the different roles
Yes.
of parenting, how it needs to shift, and that's why parenting is so hard. So yeah, you want me to talk about the roles of parenting?
Yeah, real quick, go through the roles
Okay.
real quick and
So here's
list
some
them off
verbs
for
to
me.
think about how to
from,
thrive.
I guess,
So when your kids are early childhood, your role is to be a protector. Protect them. As they move
That's
into
right.
elementary,
Okay.
you've got to do less protection and more teaching. Right? We're teaching them how to protect themselves. We're teaching them. Still more protection, but that's the goal, is to teach. Now you are in middle school, and if you're really trying to protect them, you might start having some problems. And if you're trying to overteach them, you might have problems. The key is now in the middle school is a lot of modeling good behaviors. They are watching you. And they move into high school, or what some people call senior high. It's not about protecting or teaching or modeling. It's a lot about coaching them, and viewing yourself as a coach. Because if you're doing a lot of protecting with your high school students, you're going to run into major problems. And then college or young adult age, senior year and beyond, you really want to really step into the role of a mentor, right? Of mentors. Tell me more. Tell me your thoughts on Easy A and these roles of a parent.
So the reason why I picked that is for the high school stage, because what these parents show is, A, they're hilarious. They're not in the movie a ton, but what they're doing is they're giving their daughter freedom to figure things out. And I think that's important based on what you're talking about, how we eventually model and then we guide and give them wisdom. And they do that. They check in. They say, hey, we've noticed you're dressing weird. You're having these weird kids over. Is everything okay? And they try and be there for their child, but they're not protecting.
Yes.
They're not, giving their wisdom without asking, and they're letting her fly and figure it out. And she's an honest, girl who's just caught up in a bad situation, but the parents are there to help coach her through it without actually coaching her. And I thought it was really cool.
I don't even want to know what the movie's about. I still don't know. So what a great spoiler-free review that you just gave. I'm gonna go watch it, and if you do, go to my Instagram page and leave some words in the comments about what you think about this movie or about any of the movies that we just said, or leave your top 5, or who do we miss out. Great commentary, man. Okay, I'm down to
what's your top one?
Okay, so my top one, I've got a tie. I do. So
okay.
I got
That's
one
okay.
A and
That's
one
okay.
B.
That's okay.
All right, for me as a young man, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Philip Banks is 1B.
Uncle
the
Phil.
judge.
Uncle Phil.
Uncle
That's
Phil.
Right. He's great.
I mean, some of these scenes that you might have remembered
Taking
seeing.
in this kid.
Taking in this really lost kid from Philadelphia, and just trying to get him to blend into your culture of order and structure and following the rules, and just the love, the
Fancy.
guidance, some of the drama that Uncle Phil went through, even with his own daughter, even with Carlton going through some hard times, even with that one scene you might remember with Will Smith expecting his dad to come and visit, and his dad lets him down again, and then Will just starts cussing and swearing, and the acting is incredible. Like, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he love me? And Uncle Phil just saying nothing and just being present and just holding this hurting 16-year-old man, and just talking of just the presence of masculinity and parenthood and fatherhood, just emotionally strong and emotionally connected. Shout out to James Avery, who played Philip Banks. Kind, loving, strong. Big fan.
Great show. What a great show. Such a great, shout out to Phil Dunphy. I don't know why I just said Phil Dunphy. Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil.
Probably because their names are Phil.
So did you grow up on that show?
Okay, of course I grew up on that show. I mean, I think a lot of people grew up on that show. I mean, Will Smith did such a great job playing that character, but it was the other characters. It was the Carltons. It was Uncle Phil. It was this father figure that, I think that's one of the reasons why that show was so successful, is because some people lack that true, dad.
Yes,
and it doesn't have to be the father. It could be someone, right. It could be someone else who steps up into that role.
So I love my top choice, and I hope you do too. Because when I found out that, Bill Cosby was actually like a very immoral person, it was heartbreaking. And so the parenting of the Cosbys is absolutely incredible. And there's a chance that it's not like Bill Huxtable or Mr. Huxtable that actually is the best dad. You could make the argument that Claire Huxtable is the best TV parent of all time. The mom. Here she is, a 1980s woman.
Really?
She's entered the workforce. She's a lawyer. Claire Huxtable, played by Felicia Rashad. She's successful. Black lawyer, feminist, mother of 5. And she's got this goofy doctor who's so silly named Bill. And these two love each other. You know that if you watch the show again, we bought it on DVD, man. We bought it on DVD when we were earlier married. We'd watch it because it wasn't like before Netflix. They would cuddle. They would kiss. Bill Cosby, loving on Theo. Remember the loving on his best friend Cockroach. Do you remember the episode when Theo was like, all right, I want to move out. How much money? And then Bill used Monopoly money. Do you remember that episode by any chance?
I don't.
Oh, my gosh. He was like, Theo with his little mustache. He's like, all right, how much do I need to move out? Because he's making money for the first time. So 80s with the 80s attire. And then Bill's like, well, you need this much money for rent. You need this much money for this. And Bill looks at him and said, hey, do you want to have a girlfriend? Mm-hmm. And Theo's like, oh, yeah. And then Bill Cosby takes all of his money. I love The Cosby Show. I love it. That's my number one.
It's a great show. And it was America's favorite for so long, for a long time. Everybody loved that show. It was hilarious. Life lessons. Mm-hmm. And it just shows you how, we fall in love with these characters, right? Which ultimately means we fall in love with these people. And then these people do things in the real world that disappoint us, and we lose that sense of love. But I enjoy that you still picked it as your number one, even though you could argue that it's controversial because of the person. Because you're right. It's the character that makes everything.
You know what? Here's a little thing. I was looking at my list, and in my top of my top are these are African American families. So that I found that interesting. That some of the best dads I know are, black men, African American men, and it's just great that there are so many great men of all different colors. But I just love how strong black men are really been portrayed on TV, and we need more of them. There's some, there's this great show called Kim's Convenience, which shows an American Korean family based out of Toronto. That's a great show. That's a really silly show, but I just found that interesting. I think for me, I didn't really, growing up, loving these families, I didn't really see color. I just saw like this is a great family, and I want to be in this family. I want to be like them. I want my family to be like them, and so we talked so much about these things. We talked so much about today. What are some of the highlights of what stood out as we highlighted? What's some of the biggest takeaways for you on this episode that stands out to you?
I think for me it shows, when you think about these shows going back from some of these shows decades, it brings joy to your thought process, to your memories, probably, like sitting down, where were you when you watched this episode? What did you learn when you saw this character do this? And I think we need more shows that highlight good parents.
We really do.
Right? Some of the best shows out there, we love fantasy. The Sopranos were big. You've got, Game of Thrones. I mean, there's all these cool different angles you can go. But what I think should be introduced in all these shows is somewhere good parental characters.
Yes.
Because I think everyone can relate to that, or at least want to strive to be like that.
I think something that stands out for me is that we haven't mentioned Disney once in this entire podcast, because for some reason many parents in Disney are dead, or they're just not really solid good parents. The kids are doing the parenting. So when I think of good parenting, I think we all need mentors in books, TV, and film, and in real life. And let's all surround ourselves with people who are older than us, who we can look up to, we can learn from. And let's all continue to do the work we need to do to be the best parents we can be, to mentor younger parents, and to learn from older parents. That's what I've learned here today. Well, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for all these characters that came to life on film that has shaped who I am as a dad. And what are you thankful for?
Steve Urkel, Michelle Tanner,
You're,
Gloria from Modern Family.
oh my God.
You know what? I mean, everyone
We had
listening to these
fun.
podcasts know that I
had fun.
love movies. I love watching stuff. I love relating to them. I love quoting them. It's just cool. It's part of my culture. It's part of our culture.
Yeah, man.
And I know it's kind of getting lost right now in the weeds with everything going on, but I'm just appreciative of all of that and for the art of this world and how no matter what's going on, we need art and we need things like this to help us continue to move forward in a positive way.